Hello, good people. Kirby Obsidian here. My question for today is God MAGA? It seems like a stupid question to me, but I ask because a lot of MAGA folks seem to think that God is MAGA and that God is firmly on their side. I guess another way to answer the question, to ask the question is MAGA Christian? So I think the answer is like firmly and obviously no. Um, and it just frustrates the hell out of me that MAGA goes about, uh, dressing itself in the cloak of Christianity and of righteousness and of being the good in the world battling evil. Now, generally, I don't see it as my part to comment on other people's beliefs or how they practice their religion. But in this case, I claim that right because MAGA is so much about imposing Christianity on America and like making it the kind of sanctioned religion of this country. And so I need to press back against that, as I know a lot of Christians are. Now, I honestly believe that most followers of MAGA um, have good intentions, that they want good for our country, but I think they've been very much deceived and misled. I don't think they understand, first of all, how unchristian so much of MAGA policies and actions and statements are. And I also don't think they understand how important the separation of church and state is. I don't know if they understand that the founders of the United States, who, as far as I know, were all Christian themselves, why they felt so adamant about keeping church and state separate. It's clear that one of the main reasons for that is that they and their parents and grandparents came to what became America from countries where there wasn't this strict separation, and where they, because of the particular form of Christianity that they practiced, were persecuted because that wasn't aligned with the government sanctioned form of Christianity. So, despite being fervent Christians and despite being fervent in their desire for democracy, they didn't believe the two went together. You can love pizza and you can love ice cream. That doesn't mean that they go together. And very similarly with democracy and Christianity, one needs to think about what are you doing to democracy if you mesh those two together, and what are you doing to Christianity. Now, let me say right here, I do not consider myself a Christian. I was brought up in the Christian church. I learned so much of what I know of life, and so much of my growth has been through the Bible and Christian teachings. But for quite a few reasons, I don't call myself a Christian, and I don't associate myself with Christianity. One of the reasons for that is because I see Christianity explicitly manipulated and distorted to represent so much that is evil, as it has throughout, well, for all the time that there's been religion. There have been people who have manipulated those religions, and even the founding fathers. They used Christianity to support slavery, to support wiping out the indigenous populations, to support keeping women essentially without any rights, and they considered themselves strong Christians as well. But I don't think the label is important. I do consider Christ one of the great teachers uh, there is, and I love Christ and what he represented, but I do not call myself a Christian. However, two of the main values that I retain from Christianity and that I see as fundamental to Christianity. First of all, there's the prioritizing of spiritual growth as opposed to worldly gain. That comes through over and over and over again in the words of Christ, all through the New Testament. And I think specifically of, what is it, Mark 8, where it says, "What does it profit a man to gain the entire world, let lose his soul?" That's it in a nutshell. The other key value of Christianity that has stuck with me and been an important influence on my life is love. Love held up as the greatest of the spiritual values, and that this love is to be extended to God, it's to be extended to our fellow human beings, to our neighbors, to strangers, to foreigners, and even to our enemies. Now, these values are just so clearly held out through any version of Christianity you care to examine, but when the leaders of Christian nationalism or of MAGA are challenged with those values, they do all types of twisting and turning and selective quoting and distortions to make it seem as though Christianity is really about attaining power and wealth here on earth and beating down our enemies. It's a huge distortion. And so here's where I think using our God-given faculties is really important. We were all given the ability to think. We were all given the sensitivities to feel, the senses to observe. One of the things I very much value about having been brought up in a Black Baptist church is that there is a real emphasis on one establishing a personal relationship with Christ. That meant that there were no intermediaries between yourself and Christ. There was no pastor or preacher who could tell you how you were supposed to live your life, how you were supposed to interpret the Bible. This is something that you could do with your own faculties. You had prayer to assist you. You had the Holy Spirit to engage with, and you had the words of the Bible to engage with. And this is what led you to live the life that you wanted to lead. But if we simply look, it's pretty plain what Christianity stands for. But MAGA would tell us otherwise. MAGA would tell us that turning the other cheek and empathy for others, that all this is nonsense, that all this is to be thrown out the window, that we're supposed to be warriors and we're supposed to, destroy our enemies. Now, distortions of that type, they should be pretty easy to see through. Um, we shouldn't be misled by claims that someone, so and so who's smarter, or so and so who has this and that degree, or uses this device for deciphering the Bible, that they are pointing out to us that black is white and white is black. Um, Expertise in the real world leads to a deepening of understanding of something. Expertise doesn't lead to rejecting the basics. So an expert in mathematics isn't ever going to get to the point where they say, "Oh, I'm enlightened now, and I see now that 1 plus 1 does not equal 2." Now, sure, there are deeper levels of understanding, and in the case of mathematics, um, for one thing, recognizing that math is largely abstract, in the real world, 1 plus 1 might equal 1, as when one river joins another river and they come together and become one river. In our practical lives, I have a savings account, my girlfriend has a savings account, we get married and we put our funds together, we now have one savings account. 1 plus 1 equals 1. Or I keep my account, she keeps hers, and we create a third. So 1 plus 1 equals 3. So sure, there are different ways that these realities might play out, but none of those mathematical possibilities are going to throw out the basic fundamental truth that all mathematicians will recognize, that essentially 1 plus 1 equals 2. So similarly, Christian nationalists can't distort the clear and obvious meaning of Christian uh, philosophy and teachings in the Bible, that God is about love. You can't distort that into God is about fear. But that's what MAGA is all about. Fear of immigrants, fear of the poor who are trying to take everything we own, fear of the perverts who want to undermine our values, fear of trans people, fear of this one and that one. It's so much about fear. And where the Bible's answer to just about everything is love, MAGA would have you believe that no, it's about hate, and it's about rejection, and it's about amassing power. Power to own the libs, to destroy this, to destroy that, to blow up the boats in Venezuela, although they are in no way bringing drugs to the United States. I mean, and the lies upon lies upon lies. Where is any of that reflected in Christianity? So basically, coming back to that original question I posed, is God MAGA? Absolutely not. Is MAGA Christian? Absolutely not. Now, again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a great researcher. And as I've said, I don't even call myself a Christian. So let me refer you to at least a couple of other sources where there is some expertise. The first is a guy named Pat Conkey. He was a former Christian pastor who now has the YouTube channel Culture, Faith, and Politics. And he's all about breaking down the lies and distortions of MAGA and of Donald Trump. So I refer you to him. He's a gentle soul. He speaks truth. Uh, anyway, I refer you to him. The second person I refer you to is no longer with us. His name is Joseph Campbell. He was a scholar of religion, and he studied Christianity deeply, but also all the other religions. And his thing was basically that religions are ways that culture teaches us how to live well. So he looks at all the ways in which um, Christianity is like Buddhism, is like Hinduism, is like the indigenous religions, how they all teach us. They have different methods of teaching us, but how they teach us the same lessons over and over again. And those are, again, lessons about love, about tolerance, about openness, about sharing, about overcoming fear and hatred. A third person I want to refer you to was a professor of mathematics and philosophy, and his name is Raymond Smullyan. And he wrote just a beautiful, powerful essay in the form of a dialogue between a human and God. And I just find that very enlightening. I've read it many times over the years, and every time I just get something new out of it. So I'm going to make links to all of those in the description to this video. I welcome your comments. I'm going to close with just a few words of Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 13. I hadn't read this in a long time, but I went to it when preparing this, and listen to these words and tell me, does this sound anything at all like MAGA? If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. And then I'm going to skip to the end. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Does that sound anything like Donald Trump to you? Thanks, folks. I welcome your comments. See you next time.